I am stoked to have my next guest join us. They just dropped a brand new EP called Feels Like We've Been Here Before. The guys of Betcha. Gentlemen, how are you?
We're chilling,
Doing
man.
great.
Good. We're chilling in Nashville.
Dube, Chase, Charlie, we're missing a Betcha member.
We're missing a Benjamin. Yes.
What's the deal?
He's not the most organized member of the band, so he darted out of town this morning, and then he called us freaking out at about 11:30. And
Well, Chase, I'm glad you made it. I'm based here in the Bay Area, and we always like to give a little shine to our local folks and obviously Bay Area pride and whatnot. But I find it curious, your journey to Belmont University. So I want to start with you and talk about how you made it from the Bay Area all the way out to Nashville.
yeah, so I was born in Mountain View, the El Camino Mountain View Hospital, and grew up in Los Altos, which is right by Palo Alto, San Jose, all that good stuff. So I lived there till I was about 12. So just old enough to kind of get a Cali mindset. And then my family actually moved to Dallas, Texas, and so I went to high school there. And then I guess I had started doing music in California, and then going to Belmont just seemed like there's plenty of opportunity. There's definitely plenty of stuff I need to learn, and here I am, met these guys. Rest is history. I've been here for 7 years now. So
From what I understand, you had the cojones to just send a random email to a really famous producer. And I gotta hand it to you. I mean, who does that? It's kind of like sending an email to Emily Ratajkowski and saying, "Hey, are you free for prom?" or something like that. Jacquire King, who is a famous producer and obviously worked with Kings of Leon, and you guys have talked about your affinity for that band and whatnot. But whose idea was it to send that email, and what do you remember? What the specifics were? What you wrote?
yeah, so that was Ben and I, and that was just like we got together freshman year. Like we were writing all these songs. We didn't have a band yet, but we just like didn't really know how anything really worked in a weird sense, which I guess was like kind of good. But we were just like super bright eyed and like, oh, like so like we didn't really even understand like the lower level like producer things. Like we just like we're just like so into like Coldplay and Kings of Leon and like all these great bands, and we're like, oh well, who did they work with when they did their first record? Like who did they work with early on? And then so we were just like super like dumb, but we're just emailed like every one of like our favorite bands ever, like producers, and we're just like, hey, like we'd love to work with you someday, whatnot, and then we just sent them a bunch of like demos that like the two of us had made, and then like a couple like live performances. But then the only one who got back to us was Jakir, and Jakir's like, hey, I love your voice, I love songwriting, like what you guys got going on, like keep like build out a band and like keep sending me stuff, and then maybe one day we can work together. So I think just us having like that confidence of like Jakir knowing who we were, it also kind of like helped us like almost to convince these guys to come aboard, because like with Dude, we're like, yeah, we're gonna work with Jacquire King like when we get everything like kind of settled. And then we kind of just sent him stuff for almost like 2 years, and then we finally sent him a song called Coincidental that was on like our first EP, and he's like, oh, this is actually like really cool, like y'all should. And then we ended up meeting up, and then like kind of like getting developed through him a little bit.
Well, you obviously learned a few things. This EP is awesome. I'm totally digging it. Closer to the Sun is one of my favorite tracks, at least today it is. When was this material written? What period of your lives is this snapshot from?
So this actually for this EP, everything happened like kind of quickly. We kind of wrote everything within like the last 18 months, I would say. But we were supposed to record and finish the record back in March. And then 2 days in, we luckily got pretty much bass and drums done for a lot of the songs. And then COVID hit. And then so we just like basically went on pause until June. And then like two of the songs, Deja Vu and some of Closer to the Sun, actually, we did like in our basement and sent to our producer, JT Daly, kind of like back and forth remote. Some of them were written on tour, like three of them were written on tour. We were touring with Matt Mason, like July and If That's All Right. We're kind of in the middle of a tour, and those are why those are like the more kind of upbeat, like really live, energetic songs. So we were just like coming off the stage every night, and like you just want to keep chasing that feeling of just like having the most like intense, kind of like heavy, kind of rock energy songs. And then even like Closer to the Sun, which was like the last song written for the EP, and like it was between that one and like a couple other chiller, like just more like vibey, like more talking to myself tracks. We went with Closer to the Sun because we were just like, okay, like we're gonna tour this album for a year and play, 100+ shows off of this EP. Like, let's
keep the energy high.
Let's keep the energy high, and let's like present a record that's made to be listened to live, and it's gonna help us with touring. And now there's like none of that, so it's like super, just how it turned out. But
how are you taking this all in right now? Obviously, being grounded and not being able to perform live, is this kind of a moment of I don't know, reflection? Are you taking it to do more writing?
This time, I think even kind of feels like I'm sure like all artists, it's like your halftime, like you go back to the locker room and like you're tired and you kind of like have a minute to like regroup and kind of figure out strategy of just like, it's like, okay, first half, like it's not what we thought. They got us. Yeah. This team is a lot harder than we thought. So like, it's just like a lot of it. I think, whether it's for us or for a lot of artists, so much has changed in the music industry and like how you release and people consume music, and even like touring now is totally different. And so like you kind of have to learn to adapt. And right now it feels just like a huddle time for us in terms of like how we're going to approach 2021 and kind of like what worked this last 6 months and what didn't work, and kind of what we want to try in the second half, and just kind of just making sure that the morale is high.
That is a great analogy. Your in-game adjustments are what helps you win the game.
Exactly.
Well,
gosh, congrats on the EP. It's really great. Cool to meet you guys and appreciate your time.
Dude, thank you.
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us.